10 scary proof that shows shipping container home is bad for you. If you are serious about shipping container, I will be inviting you to keep watching to the end because the 10th and our conclusion can be mind-blowing. The last decade has seen a surge in shipping container housing. So much so that shipping container homes are fast being seen as an answer to the ongoing housing crisis in many countries. A shipping container home, without a doubt, has many benefits. When you buy shipping containers from a reliable company, you save on housing and construction costs. Moreover, it takes only about a month to build. However, owners often make some mistakes when they build shipping container homes. Time and time again, we say that shipping containers make an ideal building block for constructing new homes and offices. While this is true, there are always pitfalls and shortcomings of any building method or construction material. All too often, people jump into shipping container projects without doing the proper research beforehand and can run into issues that could have been avoided had they known better in the first place. This trend of constructing with shipping containers isn't surprising considering that container homes are eco-friendly, easy to use, affordable, and incredibly strong. A lot of people across many countries are actually using this option nowadays. When you look at examples of shipping container homes, you find homes that were built extremely fast and for a small amount of money. However, there are also examples of container homes that have failed because their owners have made simple mistakes that could have been avoided. Not every shipping container is suitable for building a container house. The general misconception that any container can be used as a building block for a new container home is misleading with the rising cost of building and more people becoming environmentally conscious. Building with shipping containers is becoming a new fad for green building and also an alternative cost-effective material for building a new house. If you love shipping container homes or are exploring the possibilities of building your own, if you are interested in building a container home, there are a few things you need to know so that you build your project successfully. The most common mistakes that people make when tackling a container home, so make sure you avoid them. Here are a few common mistakes you can make when constructing a shipping container home. Knowing these mistakes will help you avoid them to ensure the success of your construction process. 1. Assuming container homes are cheap to build. Building a shipping container home is cheaper than it is not necessarily true to build the general assumption that building a shipping container home is cheaper. Container housing may be available alternative accommodation option, but it depends on so many factors, such as the location of the house, the size of the house, the type of finish is used, and the cost of contingencies. Containers homes involve a lot of welding, takes a long time, and is expensive, so try to keep it to a minimum. Over modification of containers is another source of additional costs. Container walls are load-bearing, and bracing cutting openings will need additional steel reinforcements. Hence, additional costs, the sheer size and the weight of the modules generally require a crane or forklift to place each container on location. This is a cost that would perhaps not occur in conventional build insulation. Another cost to look at if you're building in a tropical climate, your only challenge is to keep away heat, but this is not the case for temperate climates. In this case, you need to keep off the cold and conserve heat at the same time. This cost variation is worth exploring. Looking at all the hidden costs and extra work that is needed to make these steel boxes habitable, I may be too early to generalize that building with shipping containers is a cheaper option. 2. Not researching local zoning planning regulations. There's one important rule to follow when building a container home. Don't start the construction without acquiring all the necessary permits. Some homeowners failed to research local planning regulations that they were forced to take down their container homes. This will not only cause a lot of hassle, but will also waste all your money. It doesn't matter where you're constructing your shipping container building, there are going to be rules and regulations you have to follow, whether they are environmental, structural, or any other of several local issues that you will need to be aware of. These differ from community to community and from country to country. Don't simply rely on secondhand information that you found on the internet. Do your research beforehand and talk to local and state authorities to ensure that your shipping container home is compliant when it's at the planning stage, not when you're halfway through construction. It will be far more cost-effective to make a few changes to the plans with your architect and structural engineer than it will be once everything is in place and welded together. All it takes is a few phone calls or emails once your plans are complete. Before starting the project, contact your local public works building division and discuss the plan. You need to prepare a detailed layout so that you can explain the type of container home that you want to build and where you will put it. This usually involves architectural drawings and foundation layouts. Once you get the permission, that's the only time you can start building without worrying that your home isn't covered by city zoning laws. Just about the worst feeling in the world is when you're told that your already built house doesn't comply with local planning regulations and that you need to take the house down. You don't want to end up like this person who had to take down their $1.5 million home because they didn't apply for a permit. And even if things don't get that far, you can still face significant delays and cost impacts from regulatory hurdles that you didn't expect. Always contact your local public works building division, zoning office, and other applicable officials as early as possible in your project before you start construction. Be prepared by having a very good idea what it is you want to build and where you want to build it. This normally means having scaled architectural drawings and foundation plans drawn up before you meet your local planning department. The planning application can take anywhere from a few weeks to a few months and can cost hundreds or potentially even thousands of dollars depending on local fees and other required assessments. Unfortunately, each area has its own rules and standards, so there is no one standard approach that fits all situations. Note that in some countries, some areas fall outside of city zoning. In these areas, a permit is not needed for building. If you are in such an area, consider yourself very lucky. But in most cases, you'll need permits. Make sure you do your research first. 3. Wrong condition containers. Another crucial mistake people make is not accounting for the condition of the containers they purchase. While purchasing used containers is a great way to increase the sustainability of your home, you need to be prepared to do some refurbishing. At the low end, you'll often need to do the touch-up painting, but more heavily used containers that may require cutting out dented or rusted metal and welding in a patch. Containers naturally experience significant rust and corrosion due to their hard lives at sea and in busy ports, and it must be dealt with. If you're prepared for this work going in, that's one thing. But people purchasing their containers online or by telephone without seeing the containers in person may be surprised at the condition of the containers when they arrive. Even if you have pictures beforehand, a shady dealer could conveniently crop out bad places from the pictures or make them hard to spot with lower quality images. Seeing the containers in person is preferable, but at least get numerous high-quality images and videos if you can't physically be there. Ensure all the corner joints are shown, and underneath and above the container is ideal if possible. 4. Wrong or incorrectly sized container. The biggest mistake people make when building their shipping container home is purchasing the wrong size shipping container. In fact, this was the most common response we received when interviewing dozens of shipping container homeowners. Most of the people constructed their building using regular height shipping containers, only to find out later that there are high cube containers that are an additional foot in height. Standard shipping containers are 8 feet 6 inches in height, whereas high cube containers are 9 feet 6 inches tall. An extra foot in the height of your container is perfect for people looking to insulate the ceiling of their container without sacrificing headroom. In a standard container, if you insulate the ceiling, the remaining interior ceiling height is only about 7 feet. Using a high cube container, you can install insulation and still have an 8-foot ceiling height. High cube containers do cost a bit more, but they are quite popular and not too difficult to find. Considering the benefits they offer, it's usually money well spent. Other people are surprised to find out that containers come in lengths other than just 20 and 40 feet, including 10, 45, and 48-foot lengths. There are even some containers that are a few inches wider than most, including 53-foot containers and so-called pallet-wide containers. 5. Checking used containers first. Shipping containers can take an absolute battering when they are in use, whether it's being lashed by waves at sea or getting knocked about by errant fork-hoist drivers. No two second-hand shipping containers are ever the same. Take the time to understand what the different condition grading means when you're purchasing your second-hand shipping containers. Only purchase your second-hand shipping containers from a reputable and trustworthy shipping container company and inspect them before collection. Old containers come with challenges of dampness, corrosion, deformed corners, and dented wall and roof panels. It's advisable to inspect the containers in person before buying them. Seeing the container is more preferable. But if it's not possible to inspect the container physically, ask for photos of all corner joints and also underneath and above the containers to ascertain the exact state of the container before paying for the homes. Some used containers have been around for several years already. While they are still in good condition, you can expect to see a bit of rust or wear and tear. That's okay if you're going to modify it based on your design. However, you still need to check the container yourself to figure out how to use it in the best way. Many buyers make a mistake of buying without seeing the container in person. In this case, they end up making too many changes and repairs that they could have avoided in the first place. Going only to a reliable supplier will also help you avoid this mistake. 6. Insulation type for containers. One way to keep your container home comfortable is to insulate it properly. Since there are several types of insulation, homeowners tend to make the wrong choice. The key here, however, is to consider your local climate, budget, the style of home you want, and the container's age. For instance, you'd need an insulation that acts as a seamless vapor barrier if you're living in an area with lots of rain and moisture. On the other hand, you have to keep your home cool if your local climate is usually warm and dry. If you fail to consider these factors, you would find your container home scorching hot or cold. A mistake people make with insulation is not considering their local climate. For instance, in areas with lots of rain, you need to ensure your insulation provides you with a seamless vapor barrier. The best option would be to use spray foam insulation. In very warm, dry climates, your insulation should focus on keeping your container home cool. Generally, in this case, you wouldn't want a seamless vapor barrier. There is no one correct approach when it comes to insulation. It depends on many things like the local climate, your budget, the container's age, and the style of home you want. Most people agree that spray foam insulation is the best to use in most circumstances. It certainly isn't the best choice for every situation. There are many other types of insulation such as insulation panels, blanket insulation, and even eco-friendly insulation such as recycled newspapers. Choosing the correct type of insulation to use is crucial. If you're using the wrong type of insulation, or worse yet, don't have any insulation, you are going to face lots of problems. Your container home will be freezing in winter and too hot during summer. However, your biggest concern is condensation and dampness. Condensation can cause your containers to rust. This is very expensive to repair and can take a lot of time. 7. Neglecting to budget for contingencies. If anyone has ever watched a TV show such as Grand Designs, they'll know that almost every single construction project that differs from a cookie-cutter house has unforeseen events impacting on it in some stage. Budget for contingencies and always have a plan B. That way, if something arrives late, the weather changes, or there's a major strike, you are still able to continue building, have an alternative source, or whatever you need to ensure that everything still works out in the end. 8. Over-modifying or too much cutting the containers. Additionally, a common mistake people make is cutting too much steel from their shipping containers. A key feature of shipping containers is that they are incredibly strong. In fact, they can be stacked up to 8 containers high when they're fully loaded. Shipping containers are the perfect building block to use for fast, affordable construction. Unfortunately, some people over-modify their containers. By cutting out large sections of steel from the container, you're reducing its strength and thus the structural integrity of the container. Doing this will also require you to incur additional costs because you will need to reinforce the containers with steel beams. You will also need to weld the steel beams in place, which can further add to your costs and include time-consuming preparatory work. You can remove sections of steel for your windows and doors without much problem, but when you remove entire walls, you will need to use support beams. 9. Using an inexperienced builder. The last mistake we're going to look at is people choosing the wrong contractor to construct their shipping container home. Many people like to build their shipping container homes themselves. People without the time or do-it-yourself experience will need to hire a contractor to construct the building. When you choose a contractor, make sure that they have experience building with shipping containers, or at the very least, understand shipping container homes and are enthusiastic to construct one. Working with second-hand shipping containers is different than working with traditional building materials. First of all, you'll be welding rather than nailing most of your building together and dealing with rectangular load-bearing surfaces, which are the strongest at the corners. Talk to different contractors, not less than 3, preferably 5 contractors, to find out who are the best contractors in your area, who have the best experience in working with containers, or take the time to research construction methods unique to shipping containers. The last thing you want is a builder who doesn't understand shipping containers. This will cost you time, money, and certainly won't be exceptional quality. Also, make sure you choose a contractor who can follow the build all the way through the project. You don't want to use multiple contractors during the build, if possible. 10. Health concern. Build from shipping containers can be a real health concern because of the possibility of multiple toxic exposures from toxic spillages and contamination from various cargo products. Very old containers multiply the risk. Even further, if you use old containers, consider sandblasting all internal surfaces down to the bare metal, then seal and repaint with non-toxic paint. To avoid all these problems, it is advisable to buy a one-way shipping container whenever possible. Conclusion: researching your container provider. Whenever you buy a shipping container, make sure that it is a reliable company. Building a shipping container home means you would want to save, so look for companies that offer wholesale rates. Ask whether the company provides wind and watertight containers. You should also be able to ask for your container to be delivered anywhere, whatever your place is. Lastly, know that a good container company will always have a large stock. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe to our channel for more great content.